Welcome to Savvy Business, Life Unscripted, with your host, Christina Rivera, where our guests share their wisdom and valuable business tips, empowering our audience to expand their personal potential.
Hi, Peter Wasmer. Welcome to Savvy Broadcasting, Life Unscripted. I'm so grateful to have you here this evening. How are you?
I'm doing great, Christina. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, you betcha. I'm grateful to have you talk about ProValet.io. It is the software that is going to transform if you are a small business and struggling out there. More and more businesses are trying to get automated so that they can spend that quality time building relationships with their customer, and your service does just that. But before we go to sharing all those wonderful yummy tips and how you help people, I'd love for you to just share a little overlay of your background, what brought you to where you are today.
Sure. Thanks for asking. My history is in, actually, it's in equipment leasing, which is a far cry from where we are now, although formative in that we had some pretty archaic systems to run a pretty good sized company. I was in that business for about 16, 17 years and transitioned into another business where we leased Harley Davidson motorcycles. And so this was in about 2010, 2011. And I knew about leasing and I knew the systems that we needed, but the motorcycle world wasn't quite sure about how to put together a lease. So we had to automate the entire process for dealerships. And we built the system from the ground up that facilitated that. And it was exciting because I learned an awful lot about a great brand. A lot of heartfelt Americana stories were spun out of that experience, not the least of which was the impact that we had on people to actually get onto a Harley Davidson through our program who may not have otherwise had the opportunity. So we were tasked with put together a system that somebody can say yes to and get out the door in 30 minutes or less, which is if you've ever gone to buy a car,
never 30
minutes. But when a rider says, I want to ride and I want to ride that bike, you have to be able to facilitate that right away. So that was the system, that was our challenge, and we did that. That eventually morphed into another company, which encompassed all powersports. And we had the same mandate, except by this time in 2018, 2019, we were now at a point where the entire documentation process took literally a second. When somebody said yes, a dealer could push a button and that would generate all of the state and federally compliant documentation for an authentic vehicle lease for that motorcycle or that power sport item, and it would land on somebody's phone. And they could be sitting in the cab of their pickup truck in an oil field in Oklahoma, and they would get a ding on their phone, and there was their lease, and they could simply sign it with their thumb and then go pick up their bike and ride away. So it was a great experience. I tell this every once in a while about how that process I actually watched grown men cry because they got on a Harley, and that was a really heartwarming component of that whole experience.
Well, I'll feel the same way if you can get a Cirrus and me sitting in it and owning it in that amount of time as well, because my husband's a pilot and we've flown half the country in a Cirrus and love the aircraft. It's like a sporty type aircraft. And
it's great. Yeah, it's a great plane. I love that.
Yeah. So, but I'm loving what you're talking about here because a lot of small businesses struggle. They have minimal resources to play with, maybe a few staff members. But I think what's so amazing is automation. Automation can be the thing that can get you on par with some of these big guys out there and grow and compete at a level that we couldn't have done before. But automation allows that. And so I'd love for us now to go into ProValet. What brought you to, I love some of it. We talked about some of the, what you have going on with the platform that really helps businesses, but what even caused you to create ProValet?
It's a little bit of a weird story. It came about a little bit sideways. One of my vices is boating, and I have a I don't like to pick up the phone and make phone calls. I have a boat. It sits in a storage place, and you have to pick up the phone and get a hold of somebody. Sometimes they pick up, sometimes they don't. To get it put in the water so we can go have a good time. And I thought there's got to be a better way. So I literally drew on a piece of paper this triangulated communication structure that allowed for me to use an app to create a reservation, to put the water in at a certain time, and that at that certain time, the guy who drives the forklift would get a notification that says, hey, put Pete's boat in the water. He would go and put the boat in the water. Then I would get a notification that says your boat's ready. So this triangulated process. And I thought, well, let's see how much it costs to build that. And I got the estimate from a couple different developers, and I about fell out of my seat. And I thought, well, maybe we can make a business out of this. Maybe we could do something other than just doing it for our little marina. Maybe we could build a business out of it. And I looked at the marina business, and it's an outstanding business, but I decided that the total addressable market wasn't really large enough to warrant that kind of an expense. And so I basically had a decision to make. Do I just simply shelve this, or do I keep it open as an idea? And as any good entrepreneur would do, we just sort of left something open, and all of a sudden the universe responded and showed me the way. I was walking around my pool, which I live in Florida, so we have a pool, and walking around it one night, and the light was out, and we had just had the darn things replaced, and they're pretty expensive. So I thought, well, this is crazy. So I had to pick up my phone, which I don't like to do, and find the number, and then go through a decision tree on which person to leave a voicemail for, and left a voicemail at 10 o'clock at night for somebody, and I never heard back. And then I thought, I came back out 30 days later and looked, and the lights were on. And I thought, maybe they fixed themselves. And, as it turns out, in fact, that was not the case, because the next day, going to the mailbox, I received a nice chunky bill from my pool guys. And I thought, I'm glad they fixed it, but I would have liked to have had the discussion, at least had a little information about it. And by the way, that got me thinking about the service that I get from them in the pool world. It would be nice to just simply know when they showed up. I don't need to know anything about chemicals or readings or anything like that, but it'd just be nice to know that they showed up. If there's an issue, by the way, maybe they could send me some information about, an issue that came up. And likewise, it'd be kind of nice if I could send them some information about stuff that I observed, like my lights out, instead of leaving a voicemail. And so this idea of triangulating a communication platform or a structure between what I'll call the office, the guy in the field, and me as a customer, it started to take shape. And that's what we've been able to build. And we've taken the communication level to a level with Pro Valet that really, and I used this word before, and I really like it a lot because it's accurate. We have democratized technology for small businesses to use automation specifically for handling the manual tasks that somebody's going to continually and repetitively do every day, every month, every year. And so specifically, Pro Valet handles automating scheduling, dispatching. We automate invoicing, and we automate collection of the payments for the company. So, and I can tell you a little bit about how that works, but the overarching component here is communication, because one of the utilities that I love to use is Uber. And I really like how clear the communication is for a request that you have. I have a request for a ride, and I get information about how far away are they, and that they've arrived, and that when it's done, the ride is done. And there's just a very nice, easy communication that happens there. And I thought, well, if I could layer that in on top of this, any service business that takes us up on Pro Valet is now going to have Uber as part of their business. So, as an example, our all technicians who use this platform. So there's a dashboard where you build your services and manage your customers and payments and what have you. And then there's a technician mobile app in iOS and in Android, and they'll get a dispatch. They'll get their job list every single day. And when they get to a job and they check in, there's a little notification that goes to the customer who has a homeowner app. So we're the only guys out there, to my knowledge, that has a homeowner app for home service businesses that tend to do regular services. And that seems to be working quite well. People really like that. Your service has started, your service has ended. It's a great way for people to just simply communicate, not a lot more, but just to communicate better automatically.
Efficiently. It's about being efficient. And one of the things I recall, and I said I've been working in the AR portion of accounting for many years. And one thing I got from small businesses when I've talked to them is they hate having to deal with the invoicing part. In fact, there was a small business I talked to many years ago who was 6 months behind on billing. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that's cash that should be sitting in your bank.
Yep.
But they were like, oh, I don't want to do invoicing. But here, this would just save them. And just having also that touch point of if they get behind, did they get their bill? That sort of thing, where the touch point of then going after the client and just reminding them, hey, your bill's outstanding. Because sometimes it's just out of mind, they forget. And a lot of the times people aren't trying not to pay, but it's uncomfortable, even if you're, say a small business owner and you're like, I don't have that many clients. I don't want to piss off a client. How many times should I call them? You could set this automation up and very effectively just remind your clients if things come due.
Right. And interesting offshoot from exactly that component that we help with is customer retention.
Nice.
Right? Because if you're communicating, and we know this I know this from my consumer finance experience, the sooner you catch up with somebody who has missed a payment or who is late, the more relieved they are to get it off their mind. There may have been an oversight of some kind, and they just needed a simple reminder. The more quickly you go after to get that payment, the better. And so, actually, in the homeowner app, we have an auto pay feature where if, as a consumer, like I don't have the time to look for an invoice, I'm going to pay my pool guy, my lawn guy, my home cleaner, whoever uses the app, you just simply toggle on auto pay, and whenever that invoice comes in, it just simply gets paid. And so it makes it really infinitely easier for the customer. So the likelihood that customer, that type of customer, is going to stay with you is a tremendous competitive advantage.
Yeah, because customers don't want to be dealing with all the different invoices. If I can have one place where I can pay everything, makes my life easier as a customer, as well as you getting your payment quicker. And now I love what you were talking about before, is that touch point of just keeping tabs. Like, how nice is it, even with Uber or I forget some of the other apps that people do food on as well, where your food's being worked on or your car is on its way. I mean, customers like to know what's going on with their order or their purchase, and having those touch points tells the client you care about them, and it gives them that, hey, this company's awesome because they care about me. They're keeping me updated. If there's a problem, they're saying, oh, your order's running behind and why, and all of that.
Right. And one of the, to piggyback on that, one of the features that we've included, every service company has a service request that comes in, and they'll come in by email, voicemail, text. Maybe it's scribbled on a piece of paper from a technician. So we said, what if we could take all of those requests and get them to channel automatically into one channel on the dashboard, so that they could actually be actionable. And so we built a facility for the homeowner where they can click on request service. They can type up whatever service they're looking for, and then they can add a video. So now that lands on the dashboard, and a company receives that, and they'll get a little notification, like a text notification on their dashboard that says, hey, you have a service request. So they can click it open, and they can look at the video, and they get the audio and the video, so they can see and hear what's happening. In many cases, in the case of the pool businesses that use us, there's the Monday morning voicemails include, my pool is leaking, or my pump is making a funny noise. And invariably, much in the same way that you would call your auto mechanic and try to replicate the sound of the noise. These guys tell us stories about, these 10-minute voicemails where somebody's trying to replicate it. So instead of getting that, now you're going to get now you actually have a video. And they also tell us that, hey, look, if we see this stuff, in 99% of the cases, we can diagnose the problem and send somebody out to fix it. So now we're saving the service company time from having to dispatch somebody to go look at the problem and figure out what it is. Now you're able to take this request that comes in and you can dispatch it as a repair job and send it to a tech either immediately or schedule it down in the future. Or in our case, the third level is you can create an estimate. What if you have to replace a pool pump? It's kind of expensive. You're going to want to get the permission from the homeowner, so they can take that request and transition that into an estimate, create the estimate, send it to the customer. And now once that estimate from Pro Valet gets to them, it's actionable. The customer now has buttons. They can push accept or decline. If they push accept, that will now come back as a schedulable job, which once it gets done, they'll automatically invoice for it. And assuming auto pay is turned on the homeowner, it'll automatically get paid. The customer, the communication elements in there are pretty interesting too, which people like a lot, because a lot of people want to know, hey, did you, like me, I sent a voicemail in. I never knew if anybody got it. Well, if I send a customer request into one of my companies, as soon as they touch it and they manage it, I get a notification that says, we're reviewing your request.
This is, wow, this is amazing. And this is going to transform not only small businesses, but customer service. There was someone we had on last year that said, often one of the big missing things from small businesses, because they're struggling, they sometimes can't have enough manpower, is customer service is the first thing to drop. And customers are like, why should I shop with you when I can go to, say, Amazon, that because they're so huge, they offer tremendous customer service. This, as you were saying, democratizes that. So now you can be on par with offering tremendous, if not maybe sometimes even better customer service than some of the big boys.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that the response we receive from customers of our customers, so we're B2B, we help businesses automate their operations, but what we hear from their customers is really compelling about how they like, when a technician is done with a job, they, automatically there are reports that go, service reports that go out instantly. So exactly what's happened, and we let the businesses decide what is included in those reports. You could include, your time in and time out. All the technicians who use the platform are GPS tracked for a number of different reasons. One of them is accountability for a customer. We hear this from pool companies again, where customers complain that you didn't come and clean my pool, and they end up sending somebody else out to clean it again, so that Mr. Johnson can look over their shoulder and make sure that they did a good job. Well, and now we don't have to worry about that. You can actually include these timestamps and what have you. So, but it also, the GPS also allows a company to see on a map on the dashboard, where are all of my technicians.
It's all amazing services that automate so many different touch points of your business. Now, I'd love to you share with the audience before we end out here, like, is it hard to get set up, and from day one, giving you a call to getting it activated for their business? What does that look like?
So onboarding for us is very straightforward. The biggest challenge we have at the beginning of any onboarding process is getting clean data. Wherever your data is coming from, your customer data in particular, your customer data, if you have routes set up and pricing set up, we have an onboarding tool that will integrate all of that data into our onboarding tool, and then we just simply upload. It's very fast, very simple.
That's awesome.
Once where we are right now in our business development is we are going to work with every customer that comes on board in I call it a done for you platform, which means if you sign up with us, and this is actually, we're pushing this between now and I think it's July 30th, we'll actually do all of your onboarding for you. So we'll work with you hand in hand. We'll upload all the information, and we'll not only teach you how to create the routes, we'll walk through it with you and show you how to make it so that it's a smart setup for your business.
That is fabulous. And I can't imagine why any small business owner wouldn't sign up today, because it's also very inexpensive. I checked your website. Monthly plans are really inexpensive. I think like $80 or so.
$79 for the base license, which includes the dashboard, and then it includes the dashboard and the first technician license. Every technician after that is $39.
Yeah, and that's amazing.
Really cheap.
I mean, imagine if you're hiring an employee and it's not automated, how much more you're paying, say, just for a collector. A lot more than that. And this will help your business explode. I am just so grateful that you've created this wonderful system, Peter. Where can everyone find out more about you and ProValet?
So the best place to come in is on our website, which is provalet.io. I'm happy to field emails. I do that on a regular basis. If you want to send an email to peter@provalet.io, I'd be happy to talk to people, give them demos, and get them going and get them to compete with the big guys in town. It's just awesome to watch these small guys crush the big guys. I mean, a lot of these big companies have been bought out too. Some of the larger companies, they've been bought out into a larger conglomerate, and the service goes down through the toilet. And
yeah, I've seen that. I witnessed that. And so we could bring back quality customer care and grow your business at the same time. It's awesome. Peter, thank you again for coming to Savvy Broadcasting today and sharing.
Thank you, Christina. Really appreciate being here.
You betcha.
Welcome to Savvy Business, Life Unscripted, with your host, Christina Rivera, where our guests share their wisdom and valuable business tips, empowering our audience to expand their personal potential.